Good morning. Welcome to Flat Earth Early Bird number 1642. I'm your host, Arwin. And before we start the show, please don't forget to share it on any platform you deem fit. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell notification so you know when I'm going live, which is normally 1 p.m. Amsterdam time in the weekdays and 2 p.m. Amsterdam time in the weekend. And please also do support me through the PayPal and the Patreon. That would be much appreciated and can always use the support. So please keep it coming. You know the deal. Right. Weather today is blazing. It was predicted yesterday, but I mean it is really hot. It's only now, just now, starting to become viable. I actually, 45 minutes ago, I was downstairs just lying on the couch because it was a little cooler there. Oh, it is really hot today. Skies are very clear, no trails, but there is moist in the air. You can definitely see it. I can even see the moon over there. It's this faint little sickle there. Don't know. Yeah, you probably can't see that. Nope. And yeah, there is luckily plenty of wind. Sometimes it lies down, then you get cooked very quickly, but then it picks back up, so there is enough wind around. It is actually just a really pleasant day. Like, this is great beach weather. I bet there's a lot of people at the beach right now. There were people in the church over there. I think some of them are sitting there outside. So they're having church classes, which they separate up in age categories and stuff. And they're sitting outside in the shadow. Because of course it's nicer than inside. So that's cute. Even heard their songs. Which is kind of weird. Because normally I don't really hear their singing from all over here. I wonder why that was. Is that because of the weather conditions? Like the heat and the moist? Does that make the sound carry better or something? I wonder. Alright, anyhow. Hello, Bill Nye, the Science Denier, first in chat. Luke Duke, hey, good to see you again. Richard G, Ellis G. Ah, I cheered you up, awesome. Yeah, no, I feel good. Just a bit hot. But I got a Gusto energy drink fresh out of the cooler, and water fresh out of the cooler, very nice. Some rucola. Just immediately gonna dig in. Already had an Illuminati croissant. Because I didn't really eat all that much yesterday night. Since Ballbusters just never stops. It was a great show though, but it just went on and on. They were talking till 2 o'clock my time. So I think they technically went, yeah, was it like a 3-hour show or something? 3.5 hours, and we talked like another half hour after that, or I don't know. It was long. Do I get a mother energy? I never heard of that. But yeah, yesterday was an interesting day. I actually started digging into the homunculus video. I think I'm like 3.5 hours in. 3 hours and 33 minutes, maybe. Let me check. That doesn't really matter, but I wanted to see where I'm at. It's such a huge thing, and there's so much. It's pretty crazy. It's like a full-blown esoteric map. I've never seen something this elaborate. Like the total amount of like palpable study hours that went into this, and they have been lucky because they have like AI translation systems that are applying to really old text that never have been translated. It's like really interesting. Like really old German written like wizard books. What the fuck? Let me find it. Where is it? Come on, man. Where the hell are you? Ah, there it is. Wait, what? No, that can't be right. It says I'm only an hour in. That's no way. I was probably reset or something. Ah, it's freaking time stamped. I shouldn't have done that. Let's try that again. Yeah, that's better. Oh, thank God it undoes that. Yeah, I was almost at 3 hours. And my mind is already like pretty hard blown. I think this might, I've not even seen the full thing, but I think this might be like one of the most impressive occult esoterics research based video that I've ever, or that I'll ever come across. I've never seen anything that matches anything even remotely to this level. It is thus far the most impressive video that I've ever seen. What's the most interesting? Well, I'm only like a third in, so, but like the whole the connection with the Templars, and like how he basically very roughly but quickly like described how one connects into the other from different viewpoints. And it was awesome that he had that little meta piece about his realization of how everybody writes it in their own way. They're kind of politicized. Like every piece is a little politicized, and he kind of knows it, and so every piece gives a slightly different perspective. And it's fucking genius. I mean, I say that sort of thing, but he actually like made it concrete with the study. That's incredible. So he basically confirmed esoteric things that I've been saying as an oracle, that I don't know if you picked up on those things, but I like every perspective, angle of approach, always important, frequency where somebody's at, but always that, like there's no thing written by a person that hasn't been colored by their perspective. Because it's impossible, but they don't know what they don't see, you see. And everybody's likely to be involved with money and politics because those are the typical agency types that this is, by the way, I'm going off trail now. I'm braiding my own thing here. They make those things last as a piece of propaganda. It's like they're backing. They have to reinforce it. And so that typically turns into history. And that's why, like, every piece that's really in your face is always tainted like that. Because that taint was the thing that enabled that to be forced through. It's crazy. But in a way doable. If you have enough pieces, right? It's like if you have 3 people from 1,000, you might get a coherent picture, but yeah, it might still be completely off. But if you get like 500 of them, then suddenly you get so many different angles of approach and conflictions, and that you get to see like the substrata, the mindset of the age and where everybody was at, right? And then you know that layer, and then suddenly the isolated thing has attachments to the whole that you now have a feel for because you had so many samples and got to see in the substrate, in the sublayer of the spiritual metadata. And he's like onto that, and it's freaking amazing. I really wonder if that guy actually like follows me too, just for the curiosity of it, or because that guy can see, or his team. I don't know exactly if it's like all direct, pure intuition, like the way that I do, or that he's really like more studied. Because in that sense, and I'm gonna reference my Dungeons and Dragons mechanism, I'm much more of a sorcerer type than an actual wizard type. It's like, for me, I focus more on my charisma. It's natural for me. While a wizard is like all about study and collecting information and research, but while I'm not a reader, really. So, yeah. It gets really weird when I start to reference bards and Owen Benjamin and all that. It's uncanny. Like, I rewrote a whole detailed bard development class, base class, because that is a bards are really fascinating concepts. Like in games, how they've gone through, and like even through Lord of the Rings a bit. Like, it's a thing. And it's a fascinating thing because there's like a magical spiritual element to it. My mother used to also like be very fascinated with that. She would be convinced that certain musicians just had like magical powers, like beyond persuasion. Yeah. Anyway. Anyway, yeah, I'll, what? Where is it? Did I? Oh, damn it, it keeps doing that. That's so annoying. Right. So I'll
with the Templars.
Oh, great! I love that. I forget. I put it on mute, but then when you actually start using it, it unmutes it as default, and I don't know why. Anyway, here's that video again from Mind Unveiled. It's huge. So it is like a study object. Like, you're gonna need, even if you're good at assimilating this sort of information, you're gonna need like a week. Probably split up in a couple of weekends or something. Because you need time to actually focus on this shit. There's so much in there. Like, this is not like, oh, you're gonna watch like 3 videos at the same time, some debate, and no, you need focus for this. It's intense. And it's creepy. And he's very, like, he's not like just flaunting, he is like giving warnings about that and shit. Like, there's some really gross, freaky things described in like rituals and shit, and ugh, a lot of blood involved, and the whole homunculus thing is really fucked up creepy, actually. If you just, I don't know. You'll figure it out as you watch it. Yeah. So long I've been delayed getting to it. Well, you need just a calm spot. You can't just like ram this in between a very busy schedule. It doesn't work. Like, you're not going to be able to focus on it. So you'll just keep postponing. You need to have that space to watch it. And I had a bit of it yesterday. It was very tranquil after my show. Up until Ballbuster started, and then that lasted forever. Yeah. Ballbusters was great, by the way. It was fun. Just the mechanics again, typical Ballbusters. I got involved a bit. There's one thing I really love about Ballbusters, and that is that for some reason on there, people don't get snarky towards me. I do exactly the same thing as I do on the FED. But like QE like really doesn't take any offense or something. It just lets me, unless I like really won't let him finish his head. I'm very careful about that, but but so it's always weird because I just like always expect after I just try to push something through that there will be objections a lot of the time. If I'm gonna like go into like imagination of like what I think is happening in their minds and all that, it gets all very psychological. But QE is like super tolerant of that, and everybody seems to think that's okay. There, I don't know. I mean, I do it too sometimes when like everybody gets into it already, and then I have obvious good insights to add. But not, yeah, sometimes they're just really about the math and the mechanics, and can be so blunt over there at FED. Yeah, Nathan like often just doesn't have patience. Low Cree avatar. Gotta chow down some of this rucola. Home. Yeah, another thing that was kind of weird. I'm trying to do some cross-referencing. Gonna ask my dad about it. But somebody in Ballbuster's chat yesterday started talking about hydrogen therapy and how it was all amazing. And I thought like, okay, is this some troll? But apparently that's the whole thing. Kind of weird. Then there's like a whole like dedicated therapy center for it here in the Netherlands even. Kind of pricey, it is like genuine doctor level prices and all that, which is kind of weird because I mean it's just hydrogen. How hard can it be? But fascinating. It's like all approved and everything. There were like even comments like on their website. They had a very elaborate website and everything. But even on there were like people saying like, yeah, I recovered from COVID because of this. Like, oh, okay. That was weird. But apparently it's like really good for your body, and there's this Japanese man explaining how it basically like enables, it's like able to reach free radicals through like normal membranes and all that, where normal other substances can go and all that. So like the blood-brain barriers, but even others, to like really help get garbage out of there. That was kind of like the explanation. It was a bit weird, but I mean, I know there's oxygen therapy, and apparently there's hydrogen therapy, and they even like, it's not even that you're sitting in like a capsule and then getting pressurized hydrogen for breathing, although that might be a thing they also do. But also like tablets in water, and they had that sounds really weird. It's like, okay, there's hydrogen dissolved in water. What? But apparently that was it. That's something that they could do. And I'm like, it's just, what is all this? I've never ever heard of anything about that. There's just this institute here in the Netherlands. Like, okay. Like they even have like, oh, you can get insured against like medical insurance. There's apparently medical insurance too out there that covers them. And like, okay. But yeah, I'm like remotely interested because of, well, the typical inflammation issues that I have with my jaw, because it definitely is a complication situation, and it's not really getting much worse or anything, but it's not going away. And so I wonder, hey, what if I tried that? Could that reach it, as it were? Because I have a suspicion that there's like a hole or something, a malgrowth hole within like the bone of my jaw. Like it even showed up on like on the scan at the dentist, and it wasn't involved or anything. They didn't. It was like, what the hell is that? And it's like, that has nothing to do with it. Okay, like they were quick to like, oh no, it's nothing. Like, yeah, it's a freaking hole. There's a part of my jaw that you could just see through. That's freaking weird. Right? But because of that, there's probably like altered growth situation, and so that might be that there's blood vessels that basically are not really reaching it, so it's like it's not growing back. And I wonder, maybe the hydrogen therapy might like be the thing that's going to give the push to actually heal normally. That would be great. Since it is noted to help against like chronic inflammation specifically. So that's like, I don't know. Everybody's now gone all of a sudden. That shut everybody up for 5 minutes straight. Or did my chat just freeze up? What's going on here? Is it practices of the occult? Yeah, you damn straight. It's the most overt showcase I've ever come across. I mean, that's basically the pinnacle of alchemy all throughout. And it's freaking bizarre because it suggests, and he doesn't really back the claim. He says he's never actually tested any of it. That would be freaking creepy. But it is basically claimed that there is a way to just create, like, even out of lifeless matter. And it's not like the life we know, but it's so freaky. It's like a sort of alchemy based form of cloning. And they can apply it to actual living beings, and there's like other transformative qualities that are just natural that are really freaky. Like, there's apparently this thing that the alchemist studied, how like rotting flesh and all that would literally yield insects, but not because like eggs were grown in them, right? Like, cows would yield bees coming out of cow carcasses. And apparently that is even just like will happen in nature, that just things die and then like new life from scratch just spawns. Like, it's freaking insane. And you say, they're crazy that they believe that. Yeah, but they have like really elaborate written manuals and shit about that. And I mean, that's no Dungeons and Dragons game, and it's no computer era. That's all freaking like, that's a lot of effort for something that's fictional. Then it's crazy. But it's just this bizarre thing about homunculus. And what that actually implies, and that there is even like intelligent homunculus possible and all that. It is like, it really starts to feel like hey, I think that the guys from Dungeons and Dragons probably did this research too. Seems very likely. I mean, there's a whole category of like summoning, creature summoning. That's a whole thing, and like all the terminologies are all there. It's just like, woof. Yeah, that video is intense. Right. But one of the most bizarre things that also he talks about in there about transmutation was that apparently under some highly electric situation, mites would literally form out of thin air. A complete creature. Very small, but like in a sterile environment, and then with water and stuff. So like laboratory conditions, well, for the time. And then like these creatures would literally just form out of nothing. Just the fuck? Like, what? I don't care. Pia 2022. I think it's like, I don't know, might be next year or in 2 years or something. It's a gigantic mess. Also, there's a lot of rumors going around that the cabinet is about to fall because there's no other way out. So I'm actually kind of curious as to see what's going to happen. because they're so overplaying their moves, and like nobody, like everybody's, they're just now basically a soft rebellion situation where people are like, we're not playing this freaking game anymore, we're like not buying anything you say, and it's getting really overt. So, but they still keep playing it like, yeah, like a clown show. Just keep on going, keep on pretending like it's really important what they're doing, and like, no, you're fucking delusional, and you're basing this on your vague notions of material that's like provable lies and fraud, and like, and not even provable, it has already been proven, like it's been showcased, and people are all over this. There's like several like violations that have just been completely upturned, figured out, and they have records now that will, like, once that move finally starts, like there's a lot that they are gonna go to jail for right now. Like that's already done. So it's really like, okay, when is it gonna happen? I said it would happen this year. I felt it coming, right? I said it at the beginning of this year, like there's something changed. Like it's looking different now. It's more clear, more polarized in opposition. Like this is not gonna remerge. It's gonna happen. Poof. It's pretty tense right now still. But I mean, it's much more cleared up. It's all very polarizing, but people are not going to be fooled again. They're not going to be pulled into this web of illusion based on their fictional priorities. Like that's not going to happen again. Like people get it. Like even the dumber people or really sentimental people that don't really inform themselves, even they are knowing, like, yeah, they kind of try to talk to you to get you on their side, but then they don't do what they say. Like, even the dumb people get it. Nobody's falling for this. All the things they roll out. So it's gonna happen this year, I feel. You cast a vote to... Yeah, but I love to be governed, Cleary. I mean, we got all this stuff here. Roads and industry. Yeah, I like to be governed. I don't like to, like, suddenly find myself in a completely anarchical situation where nobody has to follow any rules, and then conflict breaks out because of that, and then suddenly politics is like right around the corner instead of on television. Yeah, I like to be governed, Cleary. Now I'm extra like for that because I'm on welfare, and yeah, I mean, I'm not an idiot. I'm not like gonna just say like, okay, well, I'll just go on the street then. No, I like to be governed, and that way, in this scenario, I can still be somewhat productive, at least with my self-development. And with other people. The government says we live on a ball. Yeah, well, my daddy used to tell me Santa Claus existed. Yeah? So? Does that mean he's my enemy now? Yeah. They're just treating you like children. It's just like, yeah, oh, you really need that ball? Okay. We can play with you. We'll play with the ball. Everything's a ball here. It's so cool. They're just making an offer. Just don't take it. Right? You don't have to hate them for it. I mean, what can you imagine that the government would be like suddenly like, no more ball. It's flat or something, but we're not gonna get into it. But it's not a ball, and like suddenly the national news on television no longer has the spinning ball and popping up, and who knows, dude? There's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna be, it's my ball, the ball. What's happened? They're gonna be really messed up. The government's there to give them what they want. It might not be the best thing for them, but it's an offer. Right? The government's gonna stop basically rolling out ball propaganda and all that when everybody, and I mean everybody, including the children, are like, it's not a ball. We don't care. We don't like the story anymore. That's when they're gonna stop. Not because a bunch of adults that were suddenly shocked out of their dream are like, oh, we don't want, you should stop that. Yeah, but what about all these people that haven't been shaken out of that dream? Right? Who are you to force other people what to dream about and what not to dream about? The government's there to provide. And only when there's no more need, when the market's really dried up, when there's no more takers, that's when they'll stop. So probably never. Because the ball dream just always comes popping back up. I know all about it. It's very stubborn. But yeah, there's plenty of people that just can't handle the world and they need a dream. Oh, what bigger dream than the ball Earth? There's a lot of distraction, a lot of things about, oh, but what could we do with space one day? Oh, think about the space stations. When are we finally gonna... Right? There's so much distraction, it can keep you occupied forever. So you don't have to face a grim element of reality that you can't handle. It saved me. In ways. It also made me very stupid, which caused me to be in very risky situations because I didn't properly size up reality for what was actually going on. It compartmentalized my senses into this virtual idea of reality versus the actual reality. And that is what it does. It does create cognitive dissonance, and there's a danger to it. But that was also practically very useful for me to not just feel super miserable about how fucking sensitive I'm always at. That I'm just like a squeaky chicken. I'm like, oh, I feel like a cool guy, but then something bad happens and I start crying. Or like, oh, we're watching a movie and there's like a romantic scene and I literally start crying in front of the guys. Like, that shit, dude. A ball Earth and like even like weird futuristic superiority complex and fantasizing about time travel before I actually experienced it, because after that I stopped. No more longing for that. It was all a great distraction to just make life a little bit more durable so that I didn't get banged up as much by the reality of what I was and what the world was. Okay, P, I have no idea what you're talking about. It sounds like ridiculous nonsense. People would believe they were trapped on a flat Earth. Yeah, but it's nonsense though. Because it would be very simple. The government. Why would the government have to say we're trapped? They could just say, yeah, we just don't explore beyond this point. And we're not going to tell you why. Right? Or maybe they'll say like, oh yeah, the world's bigger and it's just too risky to go over there. Or they could like unveil that there have been serious exploration expeditions, like in the early 20th century or something, and that like all of them got lost, and that there was just massive losses, like big investments, big technology, and that it just all got lost. It all disappeared. Right? So that like there is unknown dangers there and we don't know what it is, and it's been so expensive just trying to orient, we're not going to do it anymore. There's all kinds of ways that they can handle the revelation of flat Earth. There's no need to, oh, you're trapped in a dome, in a dome. No, that's bullshit, dude. No, and by the way, who gives a shit? Reality is what it is. Most people don't even have time to like go to another country, or they don't care. There's people out there that literally never leave their village. Now other people in that village will, but oh, trapped in a dome. Who gives a fuck, dude? It is what it is. People have lived with that. Yeah, hey Godzilla. And there's a point to that. Hiding the creator, think you're just a random piece of dust. Yeah, but that's called dehumanization. And that is what cults do, by the way. It's to basically take away your value. Dehumanizing, degrading. As per the religion. It's very cultish. Right? But some people just feel so shitty about themselves, or they're so burdened by their impulses that are bad impulses, and they don't have a good family that to help them out, that they will be like very glad to embrace just being a dusty piece of shit that's all malformed because yeah, happenstance, because yeah, it doesn't really matter anyway. So there's like people out there that feel better about themselves because of it. A lot of people feel so bad about themselves, or they're like really ugly, and that happens, or they feel really ugly. It's not even that they are ugly. There's like things about them, issues or severe trauma that they've been through, and after that point they can't understand it, why it happened. And then the idea that there's a god that all planned it out for you is like, why the fuck did you do that to me? I hate you. They immediately break up. They just don't want to know him anymore. Because like, why would you do that to me? And you could even tell them, like, yeah, because God, you made a deal with him. This is your challenge. You shouldn't underestimate, you shouldn't downplay yourself so much. But yeah. They just don't see it. They don't want to be brave. They don't want to brave the challenge. So then they go to victimhood. You're really ugly, got used to it. Okay, Godzilla. Thank you for your honesty. Yeah, what the hell is that, Clary? Choldahaviot? Okay. Man, rucola is really a miracle herb. I mean, every time. This stuff is great. It kind of like gets you a bit more enthusiastic, but the rucola, man, every time it's like before I felt pretty good, a bit slow, and then I ate the rucola, and now it's like it's a freaking miracle herb. It's just this lettuce. It's a freaking miracle herb. I can't believe it. What a discovery, and it was so basic, and I had so much underestimated its influence, its impact in the past. Well, not anymore. Well, rucola is definitely going to be on the list of things that I'm going to attempt to grow if I ever get a garden, next to mint. Take it easy, Godzilla. Open for the possibility. Yeah. Well, good. That means you're still open for rudimentary logic. That's cool. Ontological primitive, my friend. It's a kind of a basic. Right? It's not only a possibility, it is an antecedent necessity because of entropy. Yeah, like it is basically like this. The proof for creator's entropy. And entropy is in everything. Like it's in the very fabric of the material nature. And it makes it absolutely unavoidable that there had to be a creator creating it, making it so at a starting point. Right? The starting point itself requires a outside designer. Come on, don't do a Karen off in my chat, please. Most people don't feel insignificant if they think there is no creator. Yeah, Karen off. I mean, the point is that you immediately know what that means, even though you probably never heard anybody say that, right? Now that's the art of wordcraft. Is saying something that nobody's ever said before that immediately makes sense, like it was always something everybody said. The Karenov. Two people bickering about who's the biggest Karen. When people say you feel insignificant. Yeah, but for me, Zeptepi, every time people said like, oh, the creator, I always thought that they were just talking about the physical world. I was always taking it like a metaphor. Because for me, it's like, no. When you zoom out in the spirit, it's like, you're there. Somebody else is there. And God is there in the background. Like, always. Like, all the material can just, like, dissipate. And then you have the spirit left. And it's me, other figures, whatever they're tied to, and God. Like, God is like the medium. Is the spirit. Is the medium of spirit. Here I'm gonna say it. God is the ether. Yeah, but not light-based ether. But it's like, in the spirit realm, it's like, yeah. How can you not notice God? He's right there. Like, we're in his image. Like, he's right there. We're in it. Can't you feel him? It's the intent. It's the thing that's watching as everything rolls out. Seeing if it all, what things are, if everything goes as anticipated, basically. If all the tests yield, it's like an experiment. Like, God, this is God's giant experiment of his design. Isn't that what a designer would do? Push its design to the limits to see what is possible to manifest with the programming. So we're getting like a huge corruption test right now. This is like it's a spiritual immunity test to see like how easily, like how far people, like how much corruption it takes before you basically lose it and become seduced. Like, that's being tested on a big scale. And it seems like the way things are developing, there's more the sleepers, more the awakens, it's more obvious, it's more polarized, more in opposition. And that also means that eventually that seduction phase, that corruption test, will inevitably end, because once that polarized scenario starts clarifying and strengthening, the window of opportunity is like, no, there's no more possibility of seduction because everybody's mind is set. It's like preset. So whatever comes, how will be decided upon it is already preset. So there's no more seduction window. So this test phase mechanically is going to end. It will have to. No matter who you think is doing it or planned it or programmed it or whether it's a scam or it's a new old, or it doesn't matter. The mechanism of that seduction, it requires a certain window for the consciousness to be tried in it. And when everybody's too much aware of what's going on, then that window closes, and then it must stop because it can't just go on if nobody's taking the bait. Wait till they find life on other planets. Lame is looking at the truth in the face and not recognizing. Lame? Well, it's disappointing. And I've had that happen to myself, where I would basically get, like, they would just roll it out, and then as they roll it out, I immediately recognize I can't handle this, I'm too weak. That happened to me in like the first half of my teens a lot. My senses like really went up. It's like, whoa, I can now like reach my senses like 3 times further than preteen. I can see and feel so much. It's like when my empathy like really started to become more sensitive. But then I realized that like that, yeah, there was a lot of things that I saw other people didn't see as they were talking, realizations that would just overrun me all the time. And they made it impossible for me to actually face reality as I saw it. Now, if I had seen less, then I wouldn't have objected. And I would have probably just done a whole bunch of things and then afterward realize how it was wrong. But because I just saw it all, I couldn't handle it. It's like I would get to the point where, yes, I'll recognize that this is true, but that doesn't mean I can handle it. It just means that I'm honorable enough to actually admit as to what I'm witnessing. Yeah. There's just no motive that would make sense to lie about the shape of the Earth area. No, it does. It makes absolute sense. It gives you freedom. If you lie about the shape, then suddenly there's this infinite sandbox of room around us with more land. There's like, the funny thing about outer space mechanics is that it sort of yields infinite amount of land that you can, that is claimed to be seeable, visible. So there's a lot of advantage about warping people's view of reality as like you're standing in a ball, because it's on a ball. It's not just about standing on that ball, it's about the mechanical consequences of the assumed to be in space when on a ball. That's the real thing. It's not even about the ball, it's about what that would make everything else that's above us. Because if the Earth is flat and there's a space above us, well, then there's just space above us and we would still be limited to the horizontal parameters. And that it can't be surrounded by space if there's only room above us, you see? But if it's a ball, then if you just think you're on a ball and that everywhere above you there's space, and that on a ball that means that there's space all around that ball, then you have infinite room. Then you have a virtual sandbox that's like infinite. And you can just start claiming, yeah, there's more of this land out there. We can see that light reflecting off it. Or that's a star surrounded by those things. Just like what we're standing on. That's what the shape of the Earth yields when you think it's a ball. It's all about the room it is in. That's the yield. A giant sandbox of possibilities. That's the virtual grounds that are being yielded, that people can dream about and fantasize about and imagine that there could be, like, it leads to ideas of potential infinite resources, like, yeah, well, oh, we're running out of gold or something, but yeah, why can't we just go to an asteroid and just mine 100,000 tons of gold? I mean, the astrophysicists say that that meteor over there that was spotted by this astronomer is probably made of gold. So yeah, we could just get that material all of a sudden, right? That's a very appealing fantasy, especially to a person that's like into business and believes in that shit, right? Because who wouldn't want like sudden infinite material? So I mean, let's just talk a little silly here. Ooh, they need trace minerals, or what is it called, for the batteries and all that? What do they call that again? Rare minerals, rare earth minerals for the batteries, so they could have electric cars. Yeah, but there's not enough. Then a war happens to get those mountainous areas that have it, but there's still not enough. Yeah, but can't we find a big meteor out there that just has 100 million tons of rare earth minerals in it? I mean, there's bound to be some floating out there, right? It would solve everything. Yeah, but unfortunately, even though that potential should be there in the globe Earth cosmology universe, in reality, it isn't there. Because there's no other places that we actually get to land on. Lithium mining, right, among other things. But I mean, seriously, like, who needs gold? There's plenty of gold. And it is even useful for electronics and all that. But yeah, the batteries, which they want so much of now, yeah, that requires something that's much rarer. And so, like, yeah, it would be pretty convenient if you suddenly have found it. Oh, we found this asteroid. It's like, it's gonna, like, fly pretty close. We could send over a shuttle and, like, pull it in Earth's orbit where we could mine it. And then we'd had like a potential 100,000 tons of lithium, and maybe some gold and platinum and whatever else heavy materials are going to be. Maybe we'll find something alien, some magical alien material. Ooh, right? And then, of course, the fear porn idiots all come in and like, oh, but maybe there's this crazy virus in there. You have to be careful because there could be a big plague. And haven't you seen Netflix? Right? That'll happen. They'll do that. Because, yeah, it's like, oh, you're going to invoke your fictional scenario? Well, we're going to then invoke our fictional scenario on top of your fictional scenario. What are you going to do now? Yeah, I'm getting really deep into the suspense of disbelief. Hope you were ready for that. Right? Maybe there's some lithium mines on Titan or something. Space mining isn't going to happen soon. Yeah, but that's stupid though, because like that would be like the primary thing you would want to do with it. It's like, oh, look at, we have a sandbox and there's like entire Earth's full with specific materials never been touched out there except by the sun. Like, dude, when are we gonna start mining? I mean, wouldn't that be cool? I mean, just for the governments alone, it's be like, yeah, what if we just send a worldwide expedition and we just mine this meteorite with like 100,000 tons of gold, 10,000 tons of uranium, and 500,000 tons of lithium, and then then every county building, every government building in the world can now be made of gold, and every country in the world can now have battery powered cars for like 200 years. Like, why not? Am I right? And I mean, it would just be just a meteorite. It's like, it's not even like, oh my god, we can only do that once. There's only one meteorite in the entire universe that has that. No, no, no. It's probably like 100,000 more of those. We could literally like enhance the entire weight of Earth by just collecting more and more materials. And it's like, we got a lot of material, but we're losing water. Oh, okay, somebody... We need to catch one of the comets. We need some new water. You could literally, like, grow the actual Earth with more materials, if all of that was possible. But, yeah, guess what? It isn't. There's plenty more materials down there, though. Right? Underneath us? We don't even know how deep it goes. But there's just a gigantic amount of compressed materials just everywhere, and it seems almost like they spawn out of nothing. Just keep digging up crystals everywhere. They just keep popping up, like, oh wow, we found another crystal cave with quartz of like 2 meters in diameter that are like 10 meters long. And it's like, yeah, we found another half a kilometer diameter cave with those things. Like, oh, again? Yeah, again, because those fucking things are probably everywhere. It's just the deeper you go, oh, we'll find like another 20 of those. But we can't reach there yet. I mean, there practically is like infinite resources. It's just that we can't get there yet. It's like God just kind of sets when these things start to pop up. And then it's like, oh, now you suddenly bump into that. What the hell? Jado, hello? Why are you bringing that up? Are you saying Witsit uses heroin? That's a joke. It's not a very good joke. Witsit snorted. Okay. Any proof for these accusations? I mean, seriously, guys. I'm not a big fan of Witsit, but I mean, just calling him a hard drug junkie all of a sudden is not exactly a good thing to do. I recommend against that. It's like petty slander. So unless you have some actual leads for you to believe that he might be doing that, I'd like to hear about it. Otherwise, I'll request that you please stop doing that in my chat. Thank you. QE to debate Witsit? Well, it seems to be a thing, but I don't know if it's actually gonna happen, Godzilla. But yeah, QE is challenging Witsit, at least. I don't know if there's an actual date. He talks faster than the FedEx guy. Okay, so that's cute. So you don't have any actual reason to believe that he's on drugs. That's kind of petty. Shouldn't do that. I mean, yeah, when he does his wheelie, he does sound a little bit like he's on meth. But I mean, I have no evidence for that. It just seems like he really gets a kick out of doing the wheelie thing, right? With his technobabble micro machines pace, micro machine man pace, right? He just likes doing that. And it sounds kind of like he's on meth when he does it, but that's not actual evidence that he is on meth. It could literally be that it kind of like creates a meth-like effect just doing that for him, right? Doesn't mean he has to actually be on it. Like, people by actions can create their own drug experience to a degree. It's like getting high on your own actions. And I bet that it does do something like that for Witsit. Right? Some people, they like to like smoke a joint and then they're like, Witsit just likes to dielectric, the duality, non-space, it's everything, it's nothing. Like he just gets high on that. I mean, he just loves it. Right? Robert Sunginos? Never heard of that. I haven't seen it, Jedo. But I mean, I don't actually follow Witsit, so everything I hear from Witsit is all secondhand, is all from you guys and FED. Because I can't stand listening to the guy. He's turned into such a Savonier. Like when he basically crowned himself Pope of Ether, or to be fair enough, when he said we were excommunicated and I declared him the Pope of Ether, like from that point he just turned complete Savonier, and now he really thinks he's all that. Total Savonier syndrome. And what a waste, because he wasn't like that like 3 years ago. Although he had some Savonier preliminaries. He always seemed to be very proud of himself. Have a good self-esteem. But it just seems like he's overplaying it. Munching on crayons is equivalent. Okay, Clary. Yeah, Jado, but I mean the actual, what actually proves IQ is your ability to be dynamic. But if you're just priding yourself of being knowing something in detail and being really quick to convey it, that doesn't make you intelligent. It just makes you quick. Right? If you're not dynamic, if you can't actually like adapt, continuate the patterns within your knowledge, if you start to reject insights and don't adapt, then that's not intelligent. That's actually kind of stupid. You're just not getting it then. You can pretend that you're smart all day and being really quick with your speech and knowing like extreme details by heart. It's like, it reminds me of like I had a math teacher years ago, like 2 decades ago, that would like he had like studied it deep, and he would always like write down like the super complicated insights, like all this garbage basically in front of some math formula, and everybody would just get a headache. It's like, oh, he's doing that again. And they would just be disinterested. So I got into the class one day because I barely even did that. Didn't feel I needed it because I was just good at math, intuitively, good enough. Got in there and just addressed him about it, like, hey, you're adding all that stuff, but nobody here actually understands that. And they're like losing their attention because you're not concise enough. And he took note of that and actually adapted. And that's smart. He realized I was right, and then he stopped doing it. And everybody immediately in the class was like, oh, wait, let me get the book, right? Oh, quick. Oh, he's actually starting to make sense now. Like, that literally happened that day that I came walking into the class, right? That's intelligence. Knowing you're right and immediately, in response to that realization of reality in that moment, immediately being able to adapt and integrate with it. That's intelligence. Yeah? Not how, if you're most subtle and you're most complete in your chanting. That's not intelligence. That's just parroting. It's chanting. Watch the movie The Principal. Robert Sungenus? Geocentric, responsible, flat earth. 2010? What the hell? Huh. That's weird. That is kind of... Huh. I think I might know him indirectly through the guy that kind of woke me up around that time to flat earth, and then later, like, he was threatened by a Freemason. I actually saw that with my own physical eyes, and then he like said, no, it's a ball after that point. I think, like, he said he got threatened that his child would be taken away if he kept talking about flat earth, and that was in like 2011 or 12, somewhere there. But that might have been from that guy, Robert Sungenus, or however you say it. Like, he might have gotten that flat earth from that specific awakening, because it is exactly that time. So that's interesting. Is the ultimate ball win? What the hell? Okay. Okay, Jado, that's interesting. Well, I've never actually read into him, but if he sparked some kind of awakening in 2010, then I'm pretty sure that that friend of mine got woken up by that. And I kind of rode along with him for a bit, and then he ejected, and then that made me forget it all. And then 2015 happened, and it like really hit permanently. Anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying the show. Time is kind of flying here. It's still very hot in here. The wind is not blowing as much as I would like. Come on, wind. Give me some. Oh yeah, show the oregano. There's like another blooming part. See? There's another part. Right. So here, this one. Right, so the big one is over there. And they're still, I mean, those flowers really last long, man. Flowers on the basil, they die very quickly. They fall off, but the oregano has like very durable flowers. And they smell really nice. So favorite for bees. I see a lot of bees like sitting on these things. It's nice. Yeah, it seems, by the way, that most of the purple leaves have all gone off. They all died, but yeah, the new branches all seem to be doing just great. Just look at that basil. This is the small one. Look at how much that thing has grown. It's looking really good. And I am probably gonna harvest them soon since they're already starting to form flower buds. Smells great, looks great, really green. Giving them lots of water. I'm gonna make this into spaghetti sauce soon. Look at the parsley. It's so small. But I mean, it does keep growing, and I keep like even harvesting these little ones. Like when I see there's a little offshoot already growing, because like even when there's like only one mini little offshoot on there, they still just then pop up and grow out. And so as tiny as this parsley plant is, I still use it for like sauce, garlic sauce. So it seems to be working just fine. A bit small though. But when I use these, they're very, very juicy, very full of flavor. So it seems like they're smaller, but they're like more full of concentrated juice or something. Have I listened to Matt Quantum of Conscious' new book? Yeah. Yeah, of course I'm following him. And he is like, yeah, it is like a summarization of like a lot of what he's been talking about, like the spirit of things. And bees don't smell though. I wonder, don't they? I don't know about that, Godzilla. I mean, they might not have like a typical mammal type nose or something, but there's a chance that bees can smell. Something beyond just sight. I don't know. Maybe they don't. For me, it's just like, don't underestimate the sensory capabilities of animals and insects out there. Hello, by the way, Ryan S. Good to see you. Also, I'd like to remind everyone again that I think Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, I'm going to start the stream live again on my main channel because all the strikes are over then. So giving you a heads up. If you haven't subscribed yet to my main channel, I suggest that you do so promptly. Here is the link to my channel, my main channel. Don't miss out on the live shows when I go live back on that channel. You see an ultra. Oh, that's interesting, Godzilla. Huh. That's interesting. You're banned on my main channel? Yeah, well, there's a chance that I'm gonna unban everything. Let's see what happens. Well, usually what happens is a lot of trolls that I immediately have to spend like half an hour banning all again. Or a day later. Alright, so don't worry about it. What? What did you find, Godzilla? What is that? Oh, right. Yeah, very cool. Thanks. It's a good link. Oh. Edgy teens. Breathe through the... Yeah, that's fair enough, Godzilla. But yes, Clutch, I watch Quantum of Consciousness videos, and he's reading out an old book apparently that he wrote and never published, and he's like reading it like on his show. So yeah, I'm noticing that. Oh my god, it's so freaking hot. Right, my GTI is rolling, by the way. It's rolling, man. Bodies can detect particles in the air. Right, well, they might have some really basic radar type function, echolocation. They're vibrating creatures and they might sense like counter vibrations. Right, a lot of insects, like when they fly, especially bees, like they're vibrating, right? Well, that means they are surrounded by a cymatic pattern because of that. And if there's something physical like entering those cymatics, that might alter the way the cymatics work around it, and they may have like quick responses. That this is purely conceptual. It might be real, it might not be real. That, for example, in certain types of insects will fly and they might bump into something, but then because of the cymatics, they detect it before they just bash too hard into it, so they can break a little, so they only tick a little instead of just splatting themselves. Right? Because they can like have a break detection system a bit with that. I would see that as a typical possibility for insects. Certain types. And of course, other types like bumblebees, they probably don't. Because they're so clumsy. They don't really... Yeah, once they go, they go. They have to size up where they're going to fly before. And if... Otherwise, they'll just smack into the wall or something. And they don't have a great maneuverability like that. It's a miracle they can fly at all. All I know for sure is I don't like them. Oh, okay. Well, I do like insects, actually. Not a big fan of hornets or mosquitoes, but almost every other one. Yeah. Beetles, bees, dragonflies, butterflies, crickets even. No, I'm a fan. And arachnids too. I like spiders too. As long as they're like not black widows or something. But we don't have them here. Right, and even creatures like moths. Like, I think they're cute. Now, as a kid, insects used to make me a lot more nervous because I was just always afraid that they would bite me or something. But now I know the insects more. I know which ones are risky. Like, I don't even have to see it. I can just like hear it by the way it flies or the pattern that it flies with. I can identify what it is. Because like flies have a distinctly different type of flying pattern from mosquitoes. Very distinctly different. Like mosquitoes are much more floaty, while flies, the zoomy ones, the bigger ones, like they really have, they're like a jumbo jet and they have pathways. Like they're more sluggish, more maneuverable, less maneuverable, less floaty, and you can really feel their presence. And you can hear their pathways much more distinctly, and they have very specific patterns. Little flies are different though, the really annoying ones. But those two you just recognized immediately because they're super hyper maneuverable. Like much worse than most insects. Why you don't like him? Well, maybe you could give them a chance and they'll grow on you. Well, not literally. Hopefully. But I mean, there's such cute beetles out there. Bacteria grow anyway. Ticks, yeah, ticks suck. But I mean, ticks are, yeah, you really have to get to the wild and certain types of regions that even has them. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of ticks. Yeah, annoying. And apparently, like, it's one of those creatures that can literally just be spontaneously created out of thin air. That's the weirdest part. I'm connecting it back up to the video that I was watching again. But I mean, it's freaky. And I'm wondering, like, is there just like this? It gave me also a completely new, different perspective on creation itself. Like maybe it's like a sort of derivative from the original creation process, and that you simply have to be super proto or an angel body or whatever to be able to actually do it properly, like the original shapers. That they use this kind of thing, like the homunculus system, to actually make the human creation in its full completeness. And that we're merely like a bunch of idiots tinkering on a very low level with this shit. that we don't have all the components spiritually and all that. We don't have the capacities that are actually required to properly create like the original shapers. Like this homunculus thing is really giving me a new perspective on creation itself. Dog has Lyme disease. Yeah, it sucks. It's a parasite. It's not super hard to get rid of it, by the way. But yeah, officially the hospital doesn't really help you with it. Rabies scares me more. Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of rare though. Yeah, leeches. I know, Diver Dan. But yeah, I get it. It's not a pleasant discovery, but I mean, there could be worse things. You could find out a river has piranhas when you already got in it. That's kind of worse. But yeah, it's gross. Although, did you know that leeches apparently secrete like an aspirin into your blood? Leeches don't give diseases? Well, normally they don't, I think. Unless they get around a lot, right? If there's like a lot of animals and shit that they really feed on regularly because there's like it's an animal route and you have to go through the pond or something, then yeah, potentially I'd say a leech could maybe transfer like diseases from the blood of other animals into you, but I mean, I don't think that typically happens. Leeches don't? Well, leeches have even been used with medical practitioners. They secrete this aspirin substance. It's like when you discover you've been sitting in water like to cool down and you got leeches all over you, you don't find out like, ow, ow, ah, this feels, but no, you feel chill. And then you get out of the water and then you see you're full of leeches, right? That's when you get shocked. But I mean, it doesn't feel bad when they start sucking on you. That's the funny thing. It's because they secrete this stuff that's like aspirin and actually has kind of a positive influence on you. That's why it's used. That's why it used to be used by medicine men and all that. Like, oh, you got a headache? Oh, well, here, just take a couple of leeches. You don't feel them at all. That's right. Very sneaky. Ooh. It's a lady with what the hell? How the hell does that work? She got rabies from being hit with a car. I mean, did the car have like squished bugs all over it? Or something? Ew. I mean, I'd say like it's probably more likely that they would have gotten like tetanus from it or something, but rabies from being hit by a car, never heard of that one before. Oh, she had it undiagnosed. Oh, okay. Ugh. Okay, good to know. Yeah, I know you need to treat rabies quick. Man. What is the treatment for rabies, by the way? Do you know? You happen to know? What substance is used? Vaccine. Immunoglobulin. Or have a weak immune system. Oh, apparently you can just also resolve it yourself. But they still say it's a virus, though. I'm very suspicious about that. Jesus. Oh, you're gonna get 4 of them. What the hell, dude? I'm certainly not gonna blindly trust this one. Right, but it seems everywhere say they just have like rabies immunoglobulin. HRIGs. Post-exposure prophylaxis. PEP. Doesn't that seems to be what they're using? Povidone iodine solution? What? Oh wait, this. I just like to know about this virus. Like, oh, it's a virus. Oh, cool. Could I see it? Could I see that, please? Could I see that virus, please? I mean, it's cute that you call it a virus and all, but is there any evidence of that thing? I'd rather say it's a parasite, which would be like cell-sized or bigger, and not like this micro particle that's never even been really spotted as an actual thing. So that's, to me, is like, why did they call it a virus? Like, can you show that to me? Rabies shot into your bed. Yeah, now they say your arm. Parasites. Yes, so Godzilla, what is it then? And why don't they just call it a parasite? Why do you say a virus? What fucking virus are you talking about? Show it. Show that virus particle. Show it doing that. Why don't you just actually identify the cause? I'd say, yeah, but it is. I mean, parasites are real. And they say with malaria it's a parasite, but why do they say with rabies it's a virus? Can you show that to me? Or could you, like, at least give some background context as to why you would call it a virus? Right? Right, so what if it instead is actually like a weird immunosystem thing? Where, for example, if you just ingest too many toxic things, that, like, your entire system, like, revolts, but instead of inflaming you and then you die, it, like, stays like that, and then you adapt, and then it just starts to eat you up or something. Could it be that? Could it be like an immunomutation from certain types of toxins that you get from, like, eating rotten meat when you can't normally handle that? Right? Like, feline predator animals, they need, like, fresh meat. They don't eat rotten meat, like vultures, right? Vultures can't handle that. So what if they then got so desperate they couldn't properly hunt, and then, or like they're hurt, and then they eat, like, old meat that's, like, rotten? Well, then they might get, like, that issue. They might get rabies from that or something. Like, where does it come from? Electron microscopy. Right. Oh, that's a good tip, by the way. I'll check it out. Wow. Really? That's not a. That's bacteria. How is that a virus? Makes no sense. That's how bacteria look. Where's the virus? They're as big as a blood platelet? Why do they call that a virus? This makes no sense. But seriously, why do they call that a virus? When it's obviously like a pretty complicated little creature, the way it's described and shown. And they're definitely not super small compared to other cells of the body and all that. I just don't get it. I mean, is this just an entire fictional model thing again? Right, and there's, according to this, there's actual microscope footage, right? So that's not electron microscope. Okay. They say that it's what? Why do they call it electron? That's not electron microscopy. The fuck? I find this very suspect. I mean, I'm looking at this right now, and I'll actually link it. Like, this does not. Does this look like a electron microscope picture? No, that looks like an actual optical microscope picture. So what the hell are they talking about? Electron microscope. That's not the result of an electron microscope, what I'm looking at there. Electron microscope looks like it yields like a 3D image result, like a rendered polygon type 3D image. That's an electron microscope readout. This is an actual microscope optical footage. I don't get it. Is this just... Why is this like this? Rabies is a creature? Well, I suspect that it's some kind of a parasite, but it's obviously not a virus, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to see it under a regular microscope. Right. So yeah, that diver Dan Navy vet, it looks like it's a mess. Medicine is just a mess, guys. It is a freaking mess. I mean, if you're all super impressed by the science, oh, look at what they can see and what they think about, look at their models. Yeah, if you're super impressed by that, then yeah, you'll probably buy into it. But with everything what I know, it's like, it just looks so messy. I mean, I've seen the readout of an electron microscope, and what they show there is not it. So it's like, it's almost like a weird NASA switcheroo, right? It's like, oh, look, we got a picture from space. It's like, no, that's a CGI rendering, obviously. And it feels like that too. It's like, oh, look at the electron microscope readout, and then they show an actual microscope, an optical microscope picture. Like, yeah, but that's not an electron microscope. Why would you say that? Why are you mixing it up? Why are you having an error? That's just weird. Didn't anybody like correct that? Like, yeah, that's not the proper footage. I don't get it. Yeah, big shenanigans going on indeed. It's a mess. And I mean, this is just, we just accidentally stumbled upon this, right? We were just like, oh, I wonder what the parasite for it looks like. Oh, it's a virus. Okay. Oh, here's a picture of the virus. What? Electron microscope. Yeah, but that's not an electron microscope picture. Like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. It's like, what is this? What the hell are we supposed to do with that information? I mean, something's not right here. Either it's just not a virus according to the virus model. You don't seem to be understanding what an electron microscope picture is. Otherwise, why would you use this one? So there's just something wrong. It's like there's something is not right. I don't get it. Maybe people just don't get excited for electron microscope readouts because it just looks to them like it's cheap CGI. It doesn't look real enough. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just that, yeah, sorry, we can't actually show real proof anymore because people think it's fake. We have to show them like special looking CGI that reminds them of it, and then they won't complain. Maybe it's just like the expectancy out there that they're playing into, that they don't even care about correctness anymore. It's weird. It's not good. Couple electron. Well, what do I? Because Diver Dan Navy vet. The point is, an electron microscope is so small it doesn't use light. So how could you then have a light-based image out of it? It doesn't do that. It shoots electrons through the enclosed thing. It's like vacuum drawn and everything. I don't know exactly. It's like pretty hard to even create the conditions proper to do that. And then it follows the electron pathways, the data of it. So it's like traffic data of the electrons, and then it puts all that traffic data together into a 3D rendered model so that you can see where the electrons went and thereby deduce where it didn't go, and then that there's something there. You don't get to see an actual visual picture result because you don't have any. If they do that, it would be an artistic trick. An artist would have to take that 3D image result and then make it into a painting or a drawing to make it look just like you're looking through a microscope, because that's not the type of result you get from an electron microscope. It makes no damn sense. Electron microscope images don't look like that at all. They look like 3D rendered polygons in a 3D environment. That's what they look like. Trick is labeling it's an image. Well, here they just say negatively stained rhabdovirus as seen through an electron microscope. That's just a straight out lie. In the link that I linked up to, it's just a straight up lie. That's not an image you ever get to see when you use an electron microscope. It's just a straight out lie. They don't say image or anything or photo. It's just not what you get to see through electron microscopes. This is stupid. I mean, this is not even the proper scale for an electron microscope result. Electron microscope go a lot smaller. Like, they use it for atomic level shaping. Shapes they get out of it. It's like atomic. This is like regular cell size level. And even in some other obvious CGI images, they showed like, yeah, it's just as big as a blood platelet. I mean, a blood platelet is a pretty damn big thing for an electron microscope. So, not virus then. Because a virus is supposed to be really freaking small. Subcell sized. Well, this is just the regular cell size. This is like as big as a bacteria. Just by the surroundings of it. Like, this is not a microparticle. Electron microscope images must be processed. Yeah, that's what I said. And then out of that process comes a 3D model that reflects all the pathways the electrons went, and thereby isolating where they didn't go to yield a thing that they basically moved around. And that's how they have imagery from electron microscopes. And it doesn't look like this picture at all. Orbit the nuclei. It's only a model. They just say it orbits the nuclei. They don't even know what it is. It's just a model. It's just like components. There's this component, that component, and then they have an idea of how that combines. But they don't actually have proof for that. It's just a model. They just know that there's components there. They've been able to isolate the components, but they don't know what it actually looks like or how it actually works. Like, internally. It's just a model. Like, they don't know what electrons actually do when they are locked into their atoms. They just say it spins around it at a light speed or something. It's everywhere simultaneously around that atom. And that's what causes it to be separate. The electron creates the space that actually makes it a separate atom or something, right? But I mean, they can't actually prove that it is that. I mean, how the hell would you even do that? You would have to like take an atom and then unleash an electron microscope on it, and then during the electron microscopy like break up the atom, like make it the electron separate from the nucleus, like during the electron microscopy. I don't know what would happen. I don't know. It could blow up the equipment, you know? It's like, how do you know? Right? Because the other way would be like, oh, you just go to the Hadron Collider and then you get to see the squiggly lines. That's what the microparticles are doing. Yeah, how freaking useful. Do you actually get to see real footage of the thing and not just traces that it leaves behind, which is the squiggly lines? You know? Tardigrades. Okay. Computer art. Well, the point is, electron microscopes will they will show you computer art, because what they do is 3D model the pathways. So it will literally, whatever an electron microscope yields will literally look like a 3D model in Studio Max 3D or something, because that's the information that is yielded. That's what it is. It's not a visual result. It's not like, oh, there was light unleashed on it and then this is how it came back, like a photo. No, that's not what it is. It's just reading the pathways and then making a 3D model. So yeah, any electron microscope result is gonna look like a 3D model because that's the only information it yields. It's not gonna yield an optical based result. Yeah. I guess I'll make that into the subject. Electron microscopes yield 3D rendered models, not optical results. So there you go. We got a title. It's a little arbitrary, but I mean, this is the subject at the end of the show. And it is weird. I mean, I didn't expect this. No. Render render 2D images, 3D. Yeah, but it's all rendering diver then. That's the point. It's not actual, like a photography. It's not an image of light, which is a photograph, yeah? Not a hologram, as I used to think. A photograph is an image of light. Well, if there's no light involved, there's electrons, well then it's not a photograph. So it's not an optics-based picture. It's a 3D model that you get the result of. That's the result, a 3D model. Pathways of the electrons in a 3D model. Bees to insects to parasites? No. Bees are insects. But it's yeah, I might change it a little. That's a good point. Ah, damn it, won't fit. Yeah, I'm gonna just make it like this. What do you think, Godzilla? Parasites, not viruses. Electron microscopes, 3D model, not photograph. I had to be a little short because otherwise it wouldn't fit. But that's good, right? Yeah, I'd love to mention bees, but I mean... yeah. This is more substantive. Substantive. Substantive? Right, yeah. Anyway, I think I'm gonna move towards rounding out the show. I've been going over 2 hours and 15 minutes already. But it's been fun. And interesting. Just digging into new stuff and immediately finding out like there's something really wrong with this. Like rabies. Oh, here's an electron microscope photo. That's already like doesn't give photos, but whatever. Like oh, here's the under an this is how it looks under an electron microscope. Okay, well I've looked into an electron microscope readout, and that's not what an electron microscope readout looks like. So I don't know why they put that on some medical website, but it's just incorrect. That really stands out to me. It would not grab your attention if you've never actually seen an electron microscope readout. Then you would know that that's obviously not an electron microscope readout. But yeah, that's the thing that's really hanging with me. It's like, why did they just say it wrong? Why did they say that that was that when it blatantly isn't that? And if you actually seen it, you would know that that's not that. Why? Why did they do that? Dentists don't use actual film for dental x-ray? Well, they can do it digitally. They don't need to do it. They don't need a chemical reaction based film. That's correct. Right? They just read it electronically instead. And Polaroid uses its chemical. It's based on chemicals, that electrosensitive chemicals. That's how they do it. And they could do that. But I mean, now they just have a little platelet that just literally electronically reads it, and then they just make a rendering with that. And it looks exactly like as if it was a photograph, because it is basically a photograph. It's just the method is different. It's not chemically created, it's electronically created. That's the difference, I guess. I mean, if you can do it electronically, why would you keep using chemical products to do it, you know? Much more efficient if you can do it electronically. And less pollutants. Yeah, that's right, George Sanford. Old films were all developed. Photography was chemical, like even throughout most of the 20th century. Like digital photography was really like a late 90s thing. Before that was all analog. I still have like a regular chemical photo. What do you call it? A camera. Yeah, photo camera. An old one. It was still from the 90s. I was like 19 and still using that. It's only really like the 21st century when digital photography like really became like a more standardized thing, and then quickly it transitioned into mobile photography because it could now suddenly be much smaller, and then it just became part of telephones. But that was a pretty quick transition. In the 90s that wasn't there. Like you had some mobile phones back then, but the cameras usually like really sucked. A super low resolution. Could barely see things properly with it if you made a photograph. It's like Game Boy quality. Oh, it's taking a bath. Loves doing that. Don't blame it. Oh, he ran away. He didn't feel like being watched. He didn't like that. which destroys the samples. Yeah, I'm sure it does, Melissa. But the point is that it doesn't yield a photographic output. It yields a like 3D model. That's the type of information that comes out of it, and that's rendered with a computer in a simple 3D engine. But it's not like a photograph, like that link that says, oh, this is a rabies electron microscope result. Like, no, that's an actual microscope result. That's actual photograph using light. That's what I'm seeing there. And we were a bit baffled about that, or I was at least, so I've rambled on about it for like the last 15 minutes. I'm just wondering, why would they say that? Right, did you get the link? Just look at that. Now, what the hell? That's not the fucking link. What the hell? Like some stupid sub YouTube shit. Like, what the fuck? Anyway, here is it again. Just take a look. They say, oh, like electron microscope. I mean, that's not electron microscope. That's an actual microscope. Okay, Melissa, interesting. You seem to know about these machines. Do you work with them? That's pretty cool. Right? Just for the record, I'm not... Your image today. Yeah, but I'm not even going to go into that, Melissa. I was just looking up rabies. I mean, rabies is like a confirmed disease. I thought it was like from a parasite, but they say it's a virus, and then they say, oh, here's an electron microscope thing. No, that's not an electron microscope thing. It's just weird that they say that. Right. So yeah, I'm not saying that electron microscopes are fakery or whatever. I've looked through one time, or like seen. Not. I keep saying look through one like it's an actual microscope. No, you just get to see a rendered image on the screen, and I saw that one time, and that was pretty cool. Biological. Yeah, I get that. You don't get to take the same sample out again and reuse it. It gets destroyed. I get it. Oh, wow, there's a whole setup process too? Ooh. Of course. Anyway, thanks for sharing your knowledge about that. I appreciate that. Vaporize height. Yeah. Interesting. So there's basically no electron microscopy that involves even liquids. You can only use it on solids? Do I get that correctly? I didn't know that. But I guess it makes sense that, yeah, if you're gonna subject material to an enormous amount of energy, if it's a liquid, it'll probably explode within that little room that you put it in. Need to destroy it. Yeah, you're basically nuking it with electricity. Just like... And then the readout of those sparks basically yield that image. But yeah, it's roasted in the process. Thousands of watts, holy shit. Yeah, that's pretty intense. Wow, so I take it there's like a big coil in that machine. Like, that's like almost like a Tesla coil inside or something to generate that much power. I mean, thousands of watt is a lot of power. You cannot look at viruses. Yeah, of course, because they don't exist, Melissa. That's the whole funny thing about it. They don't actually exist. I mean, bacteria exist. Parasites, multicellular organisms exist. Cells definitely exist. And like, cell organelles arguably exist. Blood platelets, all those things. Yeah, and you can probably scan them with an electron microscope. But I mean, when it gets smaller, there isn't anything there. Nothing that's like cohesive. It might just be like junk material or whatever. Or like blood from the cell that's coagulating, that's like lumping together like a little ball. But that's about it. And it's all going to be liquid anyway, so how are you going to electron microscope that? You're not really going to do that. Optical microscope. Oh, right, it's the closest you can come. If you actually want to attempt to see something moving, right? Because an electron microscope is just going to get this flash moment really up close. If you actually want to see organic movement and whatever, you have to use a visual microscope. You can't do it any other way. Right, but indeed, like, the microbiology world is kind of a scam ground. But so is molecular stuff. Like what they do at the Hadron Collider, it's all just reading squiggly lines and claims about how the model has to be in order for that result to yield predictions. It's all nonsense, though. They're not actually even provably creating those microparticles. They're just kind of inferring that that has to be it based on some mathematical pattern. It's crazy. To me, it's literally like reading tea leaves. Like the Hadron Collider, what they do there, that's like the science version of like reading bones or tea leaves or the intestines of a chicken. Like, that's what they do. It absolutely makes no fucking sense. It's all conceptual. Even DNA is a scam. Yeah. Well, sort of. It becomes a little bit fuzzy. I mean, there is something like DNA. But I mean, it is, yeah, I mean, there is like genetic engineering happening, and it does like create differences. So there's something there, right? I'm not even sure that collider exists. Well, I think there is just a really big electromagnet at least. But does it even actually fully do what they say it does? I don't know, man. But there is a really big magnet, though. A really big magnet ring spanning throughout countries, and they do sometimes turn it on, and it is magnetic, and that is there at least. So it does something. It's like a really big magnetic ring, and that's what it measurably does. Now, if they actually supposedly take these microparticles and then bang them into each other, I don't know how much of that is actually what they claim it is. All I know is that they end up claiming to do that, getting squiggly line patterns, and then they start divining what that means, and if their calculations were correct or off. And that's it. She said the G word. Let gravity do this. Don't worry about it. I think she's just using a figure of speech. Also, considering these into microscopes and organ, I think she's a biologist, not so much a physicist, Zetepi. Are you, Melissa? You sound like you could be like a laboratory biologist. Right, but I've definitely heard of that, Melissa, that basically the entire internal world of the cell is kind of fictional. That they just know stuff happens and they have an idea of what the thing must be that does that within the cell, like the cell organs, but that they don't actually have complete proof of it. It's just a model. It's just an idea of what has to be in there to do that within the cell, but they don't know that it is actually that thing doing that. That thing they think does things in the cell is only a model. It's a mysterious, elusive process that actually takes place that you can't really perceive. You can just fuck around with it, break it up, as you said, add some dye, and then see what's left, and then guess that that is that thing that you think is doing something within the cell. That's really the game here. They don't actually know. They just have suspicions, and it's like, oh, this is what keeps falling out. It's like killing an animal and then just see what comes out of the belly. Like, oh, look at these guts. Yeah, see, the same type of guts keep falling out. And then just kind of guessing, like, well, this gut must be doing that, and that would be doing that. But you don't know. You didn't actually study it while it was alive and all that. Right? Requires a lot more work to actually know what those organs do. And they can't really get to that point with microbiology to figure out the assumed to be organs within the cell. Are they even organs? Like, does a cell actually have organs? Or is it all like this micro transmutation process on the inside that's kind of magical? And only when you dissect it does it start to form these consistent shapes that we then assume are organs. Right? But can you see it in action? Can you see the micro cell organs, the organelles, in action within the cell? No! No, you don't get to see that. Everything starts out with a guess. Everything starts with a observation. It's like, hey, there's some phenomenon, there's something happening here. And then they try to guess what that is. What could that be? And then try to cross-reference with ideas of models. And does it fit this model, that model? Oh. Okay, we think it's probably this. But we need further testing. And then eventually somebody might progress that testing. And a lot of the times they don't. And it just remains an idea. It starts with logic. Yeah, fair enough, Godzilla. But I mean, it starts with an observation. If there's nothing that stands out to study, then there's no study. So it definitely starts with an observation. Or to be more scientifically specific, a naturally observed phenomenon. That's what it starts with, even in biology. Like, hey, is there something happening there? This keeps happening. What is that? Let's study it. Let's see what causes that. Let's see what stops that. Right? It starts with an observation, and then, then you need logic in order to catalog the observation and cross-reference it. Of course, you need logic to think. But the actual process starts with the observation, with a phenomenon that is perceived in order to have something to study. If there's no perceived phenomenon, then there's nothing to study. Right. Anyway, man, I keep rolling on. It's a medical information show. Today is a very medical information show. And not misinformation. I'm actually, countering misinformation that people don't even realize is misinformation. Because they don't know enough about the subject to figure that out. So somebody's going to see that link and they're going to think, oh yeah, that looks like legit. I mean, oh, look, the microscope picture. Yeah, but they don't even know that an electron microscope doesn't actually yield that type of picture. So they don't even see it. They don't even see how weird it actually is and how it's kind of like almost improvised what they present to you from the medical world. It really is. A lot of it just seems very improvised. A lot of guesswork, 3D modeling, speculation, agreement. They're like, oh, let's all agree that it's this thing that we don't actually know for sure. But it's like the best gamble. Like, we should decide that this is what that is. Yeah, consensus-based peer work, that does happen in these grounds where there's so little certainty. They just say oh, we're just going to decide because we studied that field. We're going to decide now that this is what that is. Yeah, we didn't actually prove that, but I mean, it has to be that because what else? You don't know what else because you're not studying this field. We are studying this field and we have decided that it's that. What are you going to do about it? You're not the specialist here, right? I think that's actually happening in the medical world a lot. It's just like they're just claiming monopolies through the knowledge, even though they don't really have that knowledge. But they're the only ones that come even close to understanding enough about it to even realize that. I can't imagine like how many laboratory people work on this stuff and that don't even realize that. They're just following procedure and they don't really logically put it together. Maybe there are some of those type of laboratory workers that really don't actually put it all together. They just keep following playbooks. It's just like, I'm just following instructions. And they don't really know what they're doing. I don't know how many of those are there. I can imagine there should be some of them around since, well, the medical system is the way it is, and just public websites you can just provably see errors. Right. So yeah, it's definitely a medical show episode in words too. The subjects are obviously in that direction. I hope you all enjoyed it. And learned something. I learned something today. I learned that the apparently medical information out there that is considered legit tends to be a lot sloppier than you would expect that they would be. Because isn't like accuracy like super revered in the medical community? Well, apparently not as much as I had hoped. They have to just provable errors. But you already knew that. Yeah, kind of. I am kind of showcasing it, to be fair, Godzilla. I already knew that. I just didn't expect that they would just have that, like, oh, here's an electron microscope. No, that's not an electron microscope readout. Like, so blatant. I didn't expect to bump into that. But yeah, I did know that viruses have no actual tangible proof for them, etc. I did know that, of course. And I keep bringing it up. I have to keep bringing it up. I mean, this is something that society has to learn. And I've been talking about it for like 3 years, and I'm gonna probably be talking about it for another couple of years. Because it needs to be figured out. The medical system, on average, has become very corrupted. It's getting worse, and some aspects of that are very, very upfront in your face now. But that's basically the tip of the iceberg, because there's a lot wrong with the medical system starting on very early centuries ago. Right? Entire models are kind of based on partial fraud. So there's a lot wrong, and it needs to be reformed. And there's really good new medical discoveries and new models. Like terrain theory is very promising, much more functional. There's a whole revival of holistic type medicine. And yeah, there's a lot of good that can come out of this awakening, right? But we also have to take care of this old medical system that's based on dysfunctional, incorrect models. It has to be transformed, because it's basically just there to sucker us in and feed off our degeneration, and there's no use for it. It's more necromancy than it is medicine. It needs to stop. Koch was fraudulent, that's right. Pasteur, yeah. Did you know, by the way, Richard G? I learned that through that video, through the homunculus video, that apparently Pasteur was directly involved in the suppression and poo-pooing of homunculus information. Did you know that? That like popped in my face when I was watching, somewhere in the first 2 hours. There's like so much. It's incredible. Anyway, I will definitely continue watching that video. There's so much to learn. Dang, you missed the show? Yeah. Well, you shouldn't stay up so late. And watching Ballbusters like past 2 o'clock. Virus, yeah, but you missed a good show. So I definitely do recommend you watch this from the start. It was a good show, informative, very medical oriented. I liked this show. It was a good one. About viruses? Yeah, the last part. Yeah. We were digging into rabies, and then I was like, oh, the rabies is a parasite, right? And then I looked it up on Google, and look, that's a virus. Oh, here's an electron microscope picture of the virus, and it's like a regular microscope, not an electron microscope picture. And I'm like, what? So that's like the last half hour I've been rambling on about that. I had some interesting input from somebody named Melissa, though, who has actually worked with electron microscope and backed up some of my assertions about them. So that was interesting. Thank you for showing up. Rabbit animal is genuinely scary. Yeah, they are. They are like zombies. Obsessed, aggressive, in trance. Creepy. 3-hour show? Yeah, almost, See Me Traveler. It's been interesting, but I am gonna run out though, because I kind of like... I want to get some lunch, get a breather. It's... just want to move around a bit. Right. So thanks everyone for coming. I hope you liked this show. If you did, then please don't forget to Rogans it up. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell notification so you know when I'm going live, which is normally 1 p.m. Amsterdam time in the weekdays and 2 p.m. Amsterdam time in the weekend. And please also do support me through the PayPal and the Patreon. I could still really use it. So yeah, please do support me. Yeah, because the bills are big and I'm probably gonna run short again, like halfway of the month. Just like I did this time. Right, so yeah, help me avoid all that through support. That would be great. Right, hope I'm worth it. Hope this show has been entertaining enough for that. Anyway, I'll be back tomorrow with Flat Earth Early Bird number 1643 on a Monday, so it's going to be 1 p.m. Amsterdam time again. I might start a little late if it's going to be scorching hot again, because yeah, the sun kind of stops hitting this wall around 2, so it might be just so hot that I might start late. If I do, I'm sorry about that, but I mean, it's really freaking hot when the sun hits the wall here. It is. So you'll have to excuse me for that. Hope you enjoyed the extra long show this weekend. Right? So anyway, hope you have a great Sunday and enjoy the weather. Don't forget to drink plenty of water. And until the next video, keep it flat. Thank you.